I don't think that there's a hard and fast right or wrong way to write your maiden speech.
Mr. President, parliamentary colleagues, friends and family in the galleries. It is a great honour this afternoon to deliver my maiden speech to this Parliament.
When I was first elected into the Legislative Council, I took the time to go and look at some of the speeches of my colleagues to see how they had written their speeches and what they chose to speak about and how long they spoke for. And something that I really learnt throughout that process was that everybody has such a different approach and everybody acknowledges different influencing factors throughout their lives and different community groups or support networks that they've had throughout their journey. And so what I did was I stopped and I thought about what has shaped who I am as a person and who has really supported me along that journey. And I really wanted to give a clear view and outline as to what has shaped me as an individual, what has shaped my values, why am I here, and what do I really want to achieve. And I think a really good piece of advice that somebody gave me was write your maiden speech as if it's your final speech, and what did you hope to achieve throughout your journey, which is actually quite a difficult speech to write because you don't have a looking glass, but that's what I really tried to achieve in my maiden speech. So I wrote it bit by bit. I had to think about what key themes were important to me, and I jotted it down as it came to me, and then sat down afterwards and tried to find a bit of a logical flow to go with that. But it was the most difficult speech to write because you only get one, but also the easiest speech to write to be able to acknowledge what gets you here and who's supported you, and to just take a moment to acknowledge and thank them.
There are many people who I owe thanks to along my journey to this place. I would like to acknowledge and thank my family for their love, support and patience. Thank you for the late nights putting up corflutes, the long days standing at polling booths, and the many hills climbed letterboxing, and the many phone calls being my sounding board. My being here would not be possible without your love and support throughout this long journey. Seek leave to make a brief explanation before asking the Minister for Primary Industries and Regional Development a question regarding genetically modified crops.
Is leave granted? Leave is granted.
In 2020, after a 16-year ban on GM crops in South Australia, changes to South Australian legislation, led by the then Liberal government, passed both houses of Parliament to allow GM food crops to be cultivated in South Australia except on Kangaroo Island. My question to the Minister for Primary Industries and Regional Development is, can she assure the farmers of South Australia that she and her government will continue the commitment made by the Marshall Liberal government and continue to allow GM food crops to be cultivated in our state?
Call the Minister for Primary Industries and Regional Development.
I give notice that on Wednesday, 1st June 2022, I shall move that this Council 1. Acknowledges that the 27th of June is Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Awareness Day. 2. Notes that PTSD affects around 3 million Australians at some point in time in their lives, including over 10% of military and emergency service workers and volunteers. And 3. Encourages the community to understand the causes of PTSD and support those who suffer from it. Mr. President, I rise today to acknowledge the important work of the former Liberal government in preventing and addressing family and domestic violence. Mr. President, I'm sure it will be no surprise to members of this place that I take a keen interest in this space as the Shadow Parliamentary Secretary to the Shadow Attorney-General responsible for child protection and the prevention of family and domestic violence.